Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Reckless Optimist podcast. My name is Megan. I'm a family nurse practitioner with a deep passion for mental health. On this show, we showcase guests who have shown tenacity, grit, mental strength, and who embody the word resilience. A quick disclaimer before we start. This show is not a substitute for mental diagnosis or treatment. We do recommend that if you're struggling with your own emotional well-being, you see a mental health provider. I'm so excited that you guys are here. Let's get into it.
Hey everyone, today on the podcast we have Allie. I met her through the online recovery community. She really is a beautiful person. She shares her story tonight. It's a very vulnerable story. Allie's interesting. She is a beautiful mom of three, stay-at-home mom, previously a teacher, and you would just never think of someone like her could end up into the type of addictions that she did. But alcohol and drug use and addiction does not discriminate. It can affect any avenue of life, any pocket. There's no subset of people that it doesn't infiltrate. And so I'm super proud of her for coming on. This is the first time she's shared her story on a podcast, and I know you guys are going to love this story. Let's get into it. Hey, everyone. Help me welcome Allie to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. So me and you know each other through the online recovery community. And where are you coming in from?
I live just outside of Kansas City, technically on the Kansas side.
Okay, awesome. And so have you grown up there your whole life?
Born and raised.
Okay.
I love Kansas City.
Do you guys get all 4 seasons out there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And some of them are just brutal.
Like snow or heat?
Both. Oh, and
Okay.
so much humidity in the summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, we kind of joke, why do we live here? It's actually just a great place to raise a family. But weather-wise, we're all over the place. We're kind of complaining about the weather a lot.
Yeah. I'm trying to place your accent. I guess it is kind of like Midwest, I guess you would say,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Midwest.
It's so cute.
Yes.
Yeah. I love
Thank
it.
you.
Yes. So how many years sober are you?
I am 8. I celebrated 8 on June 3rd. I know. I still can't believe it.
8 years. That's clinically long-term sobriety, which is amazing.
Really?
Medical world is long-term sobriety.
Okay. Yes, that is amazing.
Yes. And then when you hit 10 years, you're like in long-term sobriety.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait either. To be a whole decade of
Mhm.
sobriety sounds absolutely heavenly.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear your story. So before we do, we're going to start our episode out with a quote like we do each time. And the quote for your episode is unknown. I tried to find out who said it. I have no idea. I did some research and it's a mystery, but love this quote. And so it goes, when you want different for yourself, you have to start moving different. Old keys don't unlock new doors. What does that quote mean to you?
Okay, first of all, I love this quote so much, and I have a connection to keys that I'll weave in later, but to me, it just means that old patterns and old ways very unlikely are going to get me where I want to go moving forward. To move forward, it's time to pick up new tools in new ways.
Agree. I totally agree. Yeah, when I hear this quote, to kind of correlate it back to alcohol use disorder, it takes me back to when I was in Groundhog Day. I felt like I was in Groundhog
Ugh.
Day the whole time, just doing the same thing over and over and over. Wake up with guilt and shame, say I'm not going to drink, 4 p.m. I'm drinking again. And then the next morning, waking up with guilt and shame around my decision to drink. And it was like this for years. And it wasn't until, kind of like in the movie, until he started doing something different, right? Started living outside of his own head. So for me, it was asking for help. And you can really
Yeah.
apply that principle to anything, not even just addiction, alcohol, anything that you're struggling with. Asking for help and getting out of your head are going to be 2 of the things to like unlock a new door,
Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay, and I have a great story about asking for help too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so huge.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I know for me, asking for help was so hard because I had this idea of like perfectionism. And so I didn't want anyone to know that I had problems, because
Yeah.
for me, asking for help seemed like weakness, and it's 100% not weakness. It's actually courageous, very courageous. I had to reframe that in my mind.
It is a huge strength. I do a show and tell every week on my Instagram account on Sundays, and the letter A, was asking for help. Okay, and when I was in treatment, I had to wear a sign around my neck that said ask for help, and I had to ask for help 25 times in the same day.
Wow.
I was so bad at asking for help, and my therapist knew it. She's like, oh, girl, you're going to have to work really hard at this. And it is one of my favorite tools.
Yeah. It's crazy what a mindset shift can do for us, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to hear your story. I actually don't know your story. So wherever you feel comfortable, just take us back.
Okay. And it's so interesting because I thought about it and I'm like, how do I tell my story now? When I first got into the recovery community, I started in AA and it was very much, this is what my drinking looked like. This is what it was bad when I hit bottom. And here's what life is like today. And over the years, especially this past year, I've gone back and I'm like, whoa, there's a lot more to this story that to me is really important to help it make sense. So I'll start with I have complex PTSD, which I had no idea about until I was probably 2.5 years sober. So I feel like that's a really important piece of information before I even get into my drinking, because it's the reason more than anything that I chose to pick up drugs and alcohol as a primary tool to get through life. So really quick backstory. Born and raised in Kansas City. My parents were married. They had great jobs. They were both college educated. They had master's degrees, 2 kids, dog and a cat. We went to private school. We went to church on Sundays. We did the country club. Like from the outside looking in, everything seemed picture perfect. But behind closed doors, it was a different story, right? There was a decent amount of dysfunction. In addition to, we had these unspoken rules, which I feel like probably weren't that uncommon for a lot of families. We didn't really talk about stuff. We shoved it under the rug. We did not air our dirty laundry. We protected the family's reputation and stayed really loyal. And that even meant it was okay to lie if we needed to. And so these were the unspoken rules that I grew up in. And the other piece of the puzzle is we had to look really good. And I don't mean just put together. We had to be high achievers. So I was a really good student. And I was a really good girl. So I didn't really drink much in high school. The first time I did drink, though, it was a disaster. I drank a couple beers and I wasn't even going to drink that night. I had planned to be the DD. And the reason I don't like to get sick. And I was always so afraid that if I drank, I was going to get sick because a lot of my friends did. So my friend Ben convinced me to go ahead and take a turn having fun, and he would be the DD. And anyway, he promised me, you're not going to get sick. I'll keep an eye on you. And long story short, I got sick. I drank a couple beers and then I blacked out. And from that blackout, like I came to, I got sick all over. And the next day I called, like, what happened? He's like, I tried to help you. You moved on to Everclear. I'm like, what? No. And he's like, I tried. I don't know what happened. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to drink. I don't want to drink. I don't want to get sick. And he's like, no, you just need to learn the basics. So he taught me like drinking 101. And I was able to like drink with my friends the rest of high school and into college. And in college, I just did the regular binge drinking thing that we do. I went to St. Louis University. I joined a sorority. I was a Gamma Phi Beta. I was an elementary ed major. And I did a great job. I was able to drink, not get sick, and have fun. What I really hated that one time that I got sick was that it took fun from everybody else. And that was a big thing for me. Like I didn't want to be a problem for anybody. So trucking along, doing great. And the summer between my sophomore and junior year of college is where things started to change for me. We went on a family vacation to San Diego. And while we were there, my mom got up to go to the bathroom and she fell on the beach. And my dad wasn't able to help her get up. They had to call an ambulance. They get her to the hospital and she had broken her hip. And the reason she'd broken her hip is because she had cancer. So they ended up having to air ambulance her back to Kansas City, spent the rest of that summer with her in the hospital. And there was this big question, am I going to go back to college or not? Well, my parents, education was a big deal to them. And they're like, no, we want you to go back to college. I'm like, okay. So I spent that fall going back and forth between Kansas City and St. Louis. And when I was in Kansas City, I was doing the, dutiful daughter, trying to help with the family, mom has cancer thing. And when I was in St. Louis, I'm trying to be this fun college kid. And it was really hard. And one of the first events I ever went to with this on the table, they had to take me home early because I started just bawling. And when my roommate got me home, she's like, what's going on? And I just said, I'm not sure I should be at school. I feel so guilty being here and having fun when my mom's sick and I think she's dying. And remember, we don't talk about things in our family. So She's like, we're going to call your dad tomorrow. So I called my dad and he's like, we think that hopefully she has 2 years. I'm like, okay. So I tried to do this back and forth thing. And right before Thanksgiving, we had a big sorority and fraternity weekend. And I went out that night for our sorority event and I had fun. I didn't get sick. I didn't cry. I was like, heck yeah, I know how to drink now when I'm stressed. This is great. Well, the next day I was supposed to go to my boyfriend's formal in downtown St. Louis and saw that I'd missed a phone call from my dad. And he's like, hey, Mom's back in the hospital. And I was like, oh no, again, because she had been in the day before. And he told me, don't worry, you don't need to come home. And I said, yeah, okay. He said, it's not good. You need to come home. And intuitively, I could just hear, I go, is this it? And he goes, I think so. And I'm like, what happened? And he's like, I just want you to get home and I'll tell you when we get there. I'm like, okay. So my boyfriend, I've got my bag packed for the formal and I quick swap out for a bag to go home to Kansas City. And my boyfriend's like, do you want me to go with you? I'm like, no, no, no. Let me just figure out what's going on. You go have fun. Remember, I don't want to take away anybody's fun. So I get to Kansas City and get to the hospital and she had gone in to have her lungs drained. She had fluid in her lungs and they gave her Demerol. And when they gave her Demerol, she coded. So they ended up having to give her Narcan. And I believe it was more than one dose. They were able to bring her back, but there had been a long period of time where she was without oxygen. The result of all of this was she was not going to be able to function on her own at home anymore. She was going to need to be in a facility. And the question was, do we let her live out the rest of however long she has with this cancer in a facility, or do we let her die peacefully now? Do we start a morphine drip? Like, what's her quality of life? I was stunned by this. It's Saturday night at 8:30. I'm like, what the heck? Then it gets even more shocking. My aunt told the doctor that she thought someone in our family had been giving my mom extra pain meds and that she was being drugged. So the doctor starts questioning everybody. The police get involved and I get questioned. And I'm like, I don't know. I've been in St. Louis. And I thought, okay, what's going on? Why did she OD? Anyway, I never did get the answer. But in that moment, this family member said to me, your aunt is saying it's your dad. They're looking at your dad. If he gets in trouble for this, he'll go to prison. And if he goes to prison, who's there to take care of you? Who's going to pay for your college? Who's going to provide health insurance? Where do you go when you come home on breaks? Who's going to walk you down the aisle? All these questions are being thrown at me. And I'm like, oh, okay. And my whole entire body went into complete and total fight or flight. The logical part of my brain is gone. I'm in my reptile brain. And I did what I knew how to do beautifully, which was fawn. I just was like, okay. So I went to the doctor the next day and I'm like, nothing to see here. Like, everything's good. He's like, did someone tell you to say that? And I'm like, no. And eventually they shut that down. That same day, I ended up, we as a family made the decision that she, it was best for her to pass peacefully. So they called all of her family and friends in. We said goodbye and they started the morphine drip. And that night, she slipped into a coma and she passed away the next morning. And it was just shocking. And this was right before Thanksgiving. So my brother and I ended up leaving the hospital. We were wondering, is there any possibility that we could just have this funeral before Thanksgiving? And just in case, we went and got clothes for the wake and the funeral. And when I got home, it was probably 1:30 in the afternoon on a Monday. And my aunt hands me this glass of wine. And she's like, here, you need this. And I look at my dad. He goes, go ahead. I'm like, okay. I wasn't even 21 yet. I was 20 years old. And I took that drink and I felt better. I was like, oh my God, that helped. And before it was even gone, I had a refill. Somebody filled it back up and I drank another one. And I drank until I went to take a nap and basically passed out. And that was such a relief. I didn't want to be in that day anymore. And that's when alcohol completely changed for me. It was no longer this, hey, this is what I do for fun. It was pain relief. It was medicine. So I made it through that week with alcohol. We ended up having her funeral after Thanksgiving, which was horrible. And one of the hardest parts of all of that, we had people in our home all day, every day. It was open door. And I'm an introvert. I'm trying to process what's happened. And my body, I'm in fight or flight, is freaking out. My only escape is alcohol and to pass out. And I'm like, could we just have some time? please. And my dad's like, yeah, we'll have it on Thanksgiving. Well, we got a little bit of time on Thanksgiving, and then we were asked to go to my aunt's house to celebrate like we always did. And I told my dad, I don't want to go. I can't do this. And he said, we're going. It's the right thing to do. People have come in town. They've been trying to help. We just need to go. And I got blackout drunk. And of course, I wake up the next morning and I am so hungover. And just wait, there's another family event before the wake. We're supposed to go to the other side of the family and we're supposed to have another Thanksgiving. My dad's family doesn't drink at family holidays. So we had lunch and then I go to the funeral home. And at the funeral home, we prepare to have this wake for her and I'm stone cold sober, which I'm very appreciative of because I got to see and hear all the crazy of what went through the receiving line. And if you've ever been the one that stands in the receiving line, you hear some interesting things. I feel like there needs to be a sign like, do not say this. Just say this. I'm sorry for your loss. And we had it completely, we should have reversed our order. My dad was the last one they went to. And so the line got choked up. And I had people going, what happened? Because they were stuck in the line and it was awkward. And they're like, what happened? I don't understand. I didn't think she was that sick. And then I had people saying, why were you at school? Why weren't you at home? And I felt this overwhelming sense of shame. And I just thought, why was I not there? And I remember feeling like I just need to leave. I need to get out of here. And I couldn't. I was trapped. And so went home that night. I don't even think I drank that night, but the next day we bury her. We go back to our house and we have this after funeral luncheon and her family didn't come. And I thought, what the heck? Where are they? We did this Thanksgiving thing. Why aren't they here? And they did their own thing. They didn't want to be there anymore. And what I didn't realize is that was kind of the beginning of the end of the relationship with that family system as I knew it. Not all the relationships ended right then and there, but the way I knew it was never the same. There was a ton of alcohol at this luncheon. My wine glass was never empty. I passed out. Eventually, I came back downstairs. There's that wine glass again. And so I really associated loss and pain and trauma with this drink. And it was relief and it was my tool. So long story short, I made it through college. It wasn't fun. It was really hard, but I did it. I got my degree. I came back to Kansas City. The entire last year that I was in school was probably one of the loneliest, hardest experiences I've ever had. More of the reality of what happened hit. And I found myself drinking during the evening, just like during the week, which was kind of unusual, just in my apartment. But then I got my student teaching assignment, and student teaching kind of saved me. I did not like teaching with a hangover. So I kind of got my act together. And I was like, I guess that was just for a period of time. I ended up back in Kansas City and I went on a date with one of my best friends. And the rest was history. He and I ended up getting married. His name's Ben. I call him Sparky. He's like Clark Griswold. He's a great, great, great guy. We got married in November of 2006. In the period of time that we were dating and first married, we just kind of drank on the weekends. Nothing seemed strange or odd. But I was definitely starting to have symptoms of complex PTSD. I was having emotional flashbacks and high anxiety, depression, nightmares, fear, and I didn't know what it was or how to explain it. And I just thought, I just think I'm, all the wedding and all of that, like it'll all simmer. I ended up getting pregnant. I was so excited and unfortunately miscarried. Somebody hands me that glass of wine. And it's like I picked up right where I left off. I was like, oh yeah, this is how we do it. Okay. Took a couple months and caught my breath. And then we tried again. And what do you know? We ended up having the most beautiful little boy, Joseph Benjamin Clark, born October 4th, 2008. Ended up having him in the same hospital that my mom died. I was like, am I going to cry? Yeah, I'm going to cry a little bit. First grandchild on both sides. And I'm struck with, well, not only is my mom not here, but I'm in the same hospital where she died. Like, what was I thinking? I know what I was thinking. I was thinking, I want to make some happy memories here. But if you haven't done trauma therapy and worked through the past and restored safety in your body, I 10 out of 10 don't recommend exposure therapy. But I didn't know that. So when he was born and our whole family came in, I had the worst emotional flashback I'd ever had because all these people are standing around the bed, just like when we said goodbye to her. I've never felt anything like that before. And I was like, whoa, what was that? The first couple weeks after he was born, I had this crazy high anxiety. It was, I don't know how to describe it. Lots of emotional flashbacks, just absolutely terrible. And I was having a really hard time nursing, really a perfectionist. And I was like, I have to nurse this baby. I ended up sharing it with some people, and somebody was like, just have a beer. It'll help you relax and you'll have letdown. I'm like, okay. And so I started having a tall boy beer every single night. And I was just like, well, I just need to do this to be able to nurse my baby. And in that experience, what happened was my husband was so sweet. He's like, well, I don't want you drinking alone. I'm like, okay. He grabbed a beer and we would have a beer every night together. And that became our routine and our ritual. And that's how it infiltrated into more of our daily system. I went back to teaching. Oh my God, it was so hard. I ended up becoming a stay-at-home mom after the end of that year, which was such a blessing. And when I stopped nursing Joe, I went back to wine. I was like, whew, I don't really love beer. And I'm like, great, I can have wine now. I don't need to worry about my milk supply. And because I wasn't teaching, I was like, well, don't mind if I have 2 classes. Well, then I ended up pregnant again. And I didn't miss alcohol during that pregnancy, but I missed the routine and ritual with my husband. He continued it and I didn't have it, and I felt kind of left out. And so when she was born, all that same experience when Joe was born, same thing happened. Here I've got this beautiful Elizabeth Ann Clark, and I'm flooded with the same complex PTSD symptoms. In addition to, now I've got a little girl. My relationship with my mom was complicated and complex, and I have these overwhelming feelings about that as well. And that was something I was never able to talk about or work out with my dad. I remember asking him at one point, and saying, because everybody that came through this receiving line was like, she was an angel, she was amazing. And I was like, that wasn't always my experience with her. And he said to me, we're going to choose to remember the good. So I have these memories and feelings coming up that I'm like, I'm not supposed to think this. I'm supposed to remember the good and the horrible feelings in my body. So I didn't have to have beer that time. I just had wine every night. And it became a nightly ritual from when she was born until I got pregnant again. Oh my God. We ended up pregnant one more time with the most beautiful little boy, Henry David Clark, who was born in August of 2012. This time, the pregnancy was hard. Not only did I not feel good, I had these 2 little kids, but also um, too many lights were on. I was remembering too much. I was feeling too much and I hated it. And so I knew I needed to get ahead of this, and I knew what was going to happen in the hospital. So I just told my husband, I don't even want to wait till we get home. I want to have some drinks in the hospital. He's like, heck yeah, let's do it. So I was drinking before I even made it home. And the flashbacks of the 3rd time in the hospital were worse than ever. I drank from the day Henry was born until the day I went to treatment, which was almost 5 years. And the first 2.5 years of that drinking, of course, it wasn't enough after a while, and I had to add more. But I've got this thing about getting sick, and I kind of hit this point where I'm like, this isn't working. And I had essentially a mental breakdown. And my husband was like, you've got to get help. I'm like, I've got to get help. And I ended up going to see a psychiatrist who's like, yeah, well, let's get you on an antidepressant and anti-anxiety. I'm like, okay. And he said, your symptoms are so severe, I think that you need Xanax as a buffer. I said, okay. So he prescribed me Xanax and he gave me a prescription. Let me think. I could take 3 pills a day and they were 1 milligram each. And he said, you can do this for 2 straight months. You cannot get addicted. You can't. He said, when you come back in 2 months, let's check in. You shouldn't need that much then, but I promise you won't be addicted. I'm like, okay. So I go home and I pop that first pill with a glass of wine. And I was like, there we go. I feel better. And I followed directions. That was a prescription for addiction. Like, you cannot take Xanax that often and that long and not get addicted. And I remember my husband telling me after a while, like, I don't think this is safe. I'm like, he said it's okay. And I felt so much relief. I was like, I'm not going to let this go. When I went back at the 2 months, the doctor said, I don't want you taking it 3 times a day anymore, but you're fine if you want to take it once a day. Like, okay. He said, if that anxiety increases again, you can take another pill. You can take 2. I'm like, okay. I had to do it almost every day. And he's like, okay, so let's up the dose of your other medication. And it was this constant dance with these pills of trying to work out the horrible anxiety. I ended up strategizing for the next 2.5 years. How much wine can I have? How many pills can I have? How can I do it in this situation? And of course, my life became totally unmanageable. Not only was I wildly consumed with trying to keep these symptoms down, but it was just gone. If you have enough Xanax and wine in your system, you're not there anymore. There's too many stories of like just horrible things that happened. And the people near and dear to me got very hurt by them. And it was really hard because nobody knew really what was going on. Nobody knew I had complex PTT. Nobody understood what was going on inside my body and knew that I'm using these pills and this wine to try to soothe my nervous system and to try to keep the trauma at bay. And I ended up hitting just the most horrific bottom. We had gone away to a family wedding in Philadelphia, and, I was an absolute mess. And I took from that experience, and the family was furious with me. It was really awful and painful. And I made a resolve when I get back, I'm going to get it together. We drove all the way to Philadelphia. And then on our drive back, we ended up stopping at SLU, where I went to college. And I took the kids to my apartment and I saw the stairs. Everything came flooding back from when my mom died. There was no amount of wine, there was no amount of Xanax that could quiet what happened anymore. And I did not think that I could face the reality without drugs and alcohol. So we got home and I crawled into bed. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. And I had these 3 beautiful kids and the life I always wanted. Thought, God, what have I done? I've just totally failed. What's wrong with me? And I tried to drink myself to death for like 5 days. I was wildly unsuccessful. Thankfully, my husband found that I'd been hiding wine in my closet. He's 6'7", and I put it up on a shelf. And he found the empty wine bottles, or actually they weren't even bottles, they were bags, they were boxes of wine. And he was furious. He's like, enough is enough. I was so scared and so ashamed. And so he left the room. He was so angry with me, and he should have been. And I called my friend Susie. And Susie came over and she fed me and she gave me a shower and she told my husband, we got to get her to medical detox. And I ended up falling asleep that night. And the next day, unbeknownst to me, my husband had reached out to a friend of our family who was sober, and she connected him with a recovery consultant, and they set up an intervention. And he told me the next day, if you take one more drink or one more pill, I'm going to take the kids and leave. And I negotiated my heart out. I tried everything I could think of to shift the narrative, and he stood firm. So I ended up calling this place in Kansas City called First Call, and they have a crisis line. And my husband had said to me, I want you to go to this place, Cottonwood Springs. This is what's being recommended. I called First Call. I told them everything, and they said, we recommend Cottonwood Springs. I'm like, okay. So I agreed to go. I had one final glass of wine, and I went to medical detox. From medical detox, I knew I needed to go to treatment. I thought, there's no way I can try to go home with my 3 kids. It was summer and get sober on my own. Even if I went to AA, even if I went to intensive outpatient, I needed to be away focused on myself. So I went to Harmony Recovery in Estes Park, Colorado. It's just the most beautiful place to heal. When my husband dropped me off there, I just felt like I was at home. I knew I was right where I should be, and I completely committed. I said, I will do anything and everything I can while I'm here to get well. I felt so guilty leaving my kids. I felt like such a bad mom. And they told me over and over, a good mom goes and gets the help she needs. And again, I was so bad at asking for help. I had to wear that sign, and they just hooked me up with the most incredible tools. They were the most incredible people. And from there, I ended up in AA. And that carried me through for about 2.5 years. And after a share in a meeting, this guy came up to me and he's like, Allie, I've never understood your story until today. He's like, I didn't know you had PTSD. I said, Steve, I have no idea what you're talking about. He said, oh my gosh, I think you have PTSD. I said, okay. He said, I know a great trauma therapist. I called her and I worked with her for 3 years. And it just so happened to be right before COVID. The world shut down and I had this safe cocoon to finally start unpacking what happened and restore safety in my body. It was the most miraculous and beautiful healing. And during that time, my dad had cancer and he passed away from cancer, which was so triggering. And I was able to stay sober and for the most part regulated because of trauma therapy. We did internal family systems. We did somatic experiencing and cognitive behavior therapy. And that's really what has helped me stay completely sober. I've never had a relapse, which is amazing. But today I am not just sober. I feel really good. My CPTSD symptoms are pretty minimal and my nervous system is pretty regulated. but I have to work a trauma recovery program in addition to a recovery program from both drugs and alcohol. And it is so much easier than trying to strategize and use drugs and alcohol, which never worked in the first place.
Wow, girl, your story got me. I teared up a few times. I mean, extremely powerful story. You tell it so well as well. Yes, absolutely. You definitely have signs of complex PTSD, the way you were describing kind of that out of nowhere, like this emotional dysregulation, if that's what you want to call it, kind of just hits you like a tornado. The other part of your story that I really connected with is having the three kids. I have three kids as well. And, trying everything to trying everything to fix this problem as a perfectionist and not being able to fix it and then just being like, you know what, they're better off without me. Did the same thing as you. Just really really scary time in my life. But thank you for sharing all of that. I have some follow-up questions for you. So, that first year, what would you say was the most helpful thing? Because I think a lot of people will relapse, they'll fall off their, rhythm. That first year is really tricky. So just to kind of give some advice to the listeners, what was the most helpful thing that first year?
Community. There's just no way I could have done, honestly, anything without having the support of other sober people. AA was just an absolute lifeline. And this was in 2017. There were a few other things available, but not a ton. Um, and so I went to so many meetings and they were in person at the time. And that was really hard on my husband because I had been gone already so much. And when I got back, I was like, oh, I got to go. I got to go to a meeting and I got to go to another meeting. In addition to that, I feel like boundaries were really key. I had to say no to a lot because I just didn't have the nervous system regulation and the confidence in my sobriety to be able to do a lot of social things. Sometimes I even had a hard time going to my kids' sporting events, basketball games, like my nervous system was a wreck. I just had to honor how I felt that day, do what I could and say no, and be okay with this in between transition of I don't really know. I know where I don't fit. I don't totally know where I fit moving forward. I just need to be in this in between and figure it out a day at a time and kind of sit in that uncertainty as I found where I felt the most comfortable without alcohol.
I'm very curious about your relationship with your husband. He sounds like an amazing man, by the way. So I would imagine when you got out of treatment, that relationship was probably a little bit rocky. He had to regain his trust in you. How do you feel? Number one, how has your relationship changed? And what were the tools to change that relationship?
Okay, it was so rocky. The beginning, honestly, it was just a disaster. He came to the family program and we set up what we thought was this great plan. And it really was. It's just putting it into action was a whole different story. And of course, the three kids are underfoot. We we really struggled to connect. Our ritual and routine had been, a drink in the evening. And we ended up having to go see the same recovery consultant that he used for his intervention. And he actually drank quite a bit at the beginning. And when he had come to Harmony, he's like, I'm not going to drink. I'm fully supporting this. We won't have alcohol in our house. And it's like, okay, well, then when we got home, he did go out and drink a lot. He didn't drink at our house, but he was coming home and he'd had a lot to drink. And that was really hard. I could smell it. And he wasn't the same. And it was very triggering. And so we saw this recovery consultant and she's like, Ben, is she doing what you've asked? And he said, yes. She said, could you just put the beverage to the side for a month? If it's not that big of a deal to you, could you just have a Coke? And he's like, okay. So we sat on the couch every night. We watched TV. We ate popcorn. We didn't even really talk. It was like junior high. We were getting to know each other all over again. But by the end of the month, she had us come back 1 month later. By the end of that month, we were talking about the show we were watching. We were talking about the kids. We were slowly finding our way of just how to be together. But each social event that came up, it was like we were back to square one. How do we do this? And I would say we had to fail over and over and over before we found what did work. We fought a lot. We felt personally attacked a lot by one another. We didn't feel understood or heard. We really struggled to communicate well. I basically went to sober school and was off to the races. I spent 35 days of treatment and I was like, I love sobriety. This is so good. And I'm not slowing down. And I'm glad I did it that way. But he was like, excuse me, I came for the weekend. I kept our life together. I'm kind of jogging back here and I need to take breaks because I have a full-time job too. So it took us over 2 years to essentially kind of go the same pace in this new normal. And the thing that we did really, really well, we just kept trying. We just, every day, it was like, okay, we're going to try again. It's like that same consistency that we had in the nightly ritual of drinking. We ended up having the same consistency. And okay, we failed yesterday. Let's try again today. We weren't sure we were going to make it for sure. I think both of us at times thought, this is too hard. I can't keep doing this. But we'd made it so far that we're like, we just got to keep trying. And then we'd look at our 3 beautiful kids. And we're like, we got to keep trying. And I'm so glad we did. Both of us. We both worked really hard.
You didn't give up on each other.
No,
Yeah.
no.
And they put the effort in.
Yes. And he really, um, he didn't run from it. He stayed. And my experience in AA meetings was that a lot of women, their husbands left. They said this was too much. And they kept reminding me of that. He hasn't left. You keep working really hard on your end. He's trying. And that helped me so much. I was like, okay, I just didn't know it was going to be that hard.
I wanted to ask you about your relationship with your kids. I think a lot of moms have a lot of shame around, kind of quote unquote missing some of their childhood moments. I know I did. And I've had to rework that over many years, because if you stay stuck in that shame, it's only going to drag you down. You have to continue to live in the present moment and be better from here forward. So, how has your relationship with your kids changed in sobriety?
You know what? It's just amazing. Oh, I'm going to cry. All I ever wanted really was to be a mom and to have my own family. And I almost lost it. And I almost lost them. And I feel like I was given the second chance. And I have taken that so seriously. And I have given it my all from the day I got back from Harmony. And I can't even explain the ripple effect. Not only are our relationships better than they were, when things were not so bad with my drinking, but there's a depth and an honesty and an authenticity that we would not have if I was not sober. I have so many more tools, not only to help me, but to help them. Okay, all my kids are teenagers right now. I have 13, 15, and 17, and it's a very hard and emotional time for them. And I have tools now that I can share with them that work for them. They tell me they're dumb. They tell me, this is so stupid and I don't want to do this. They do them anyway and they work, and we don't talk about that part of it. But I know that they are very appreciative that I'm there, that I have something to give them, and that they can come to me at like any time with anything. It is just, it's the greatest gift.
Are you honest with them about your recovery journey? Do they know everything about what happened to you?
I think so. I'm sure there's, details that even if we've told them, maybe it hasn't landed. And the older they get and the more we talk about it and they hear it other times, they're like, oh, wow, okay. It means something different. When I told Joe certain things as a 10-year-old and he hears it now as an almost 17-year-old, he's going, oh my gosh. One of the coolest things that happened, I think it was at the beginning of the summer, someone he was close with was having a really, really hard time with their mom. And he came home and he gave me the biggest hug. And he's like, you're just there for me. And I was like, it's all worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
girl.
all worth it.
Yeah. That's what sobriety gives you, is that gift of presence. I think that's what kids crave. Even if it's not alcohol, I think parents are constantly distracted by other things. But if you can just give your kid even just 30 minutes of your undivided attention, that goes so far.
Yeah. And in that moment, it was just so interesting because the guilt that I have felt about things that have happened in the past, I can't explain it. But in that moment, it was like, we're okay. It's all okay because he knows I love him and he loves me, and it's over.
And I think as a recovering perfectionist, it's good for your kids to see your failures and to see you pull through them. I know my dad was extreme, sounds a lot like your family, high achieving, expected a lot out of us. And he never let me see his failures. And I think that's what probably fueled my perfectionism. Loved my father very much, but that is something that I think I picked up on. And so I'm very honest with my kids too about what I've been through, because it's important for them to see, okay, my mom went through this, but she got through it. She's not perfect, but she didn't stay in her victimhood. She worked on herself and got through it. And I think it's so good for kids to see that.
I agree. Failure is such a part of the process of being human.
Yeah, exactly. And we learn so much more from our failures than we do our wins, you know?
Definitely.
I wanted to ask you a few more questions before the lightning round. One is about the relationship with your father. That was a really, complicated story of everything that happened. Did you ever get any clarity about what happened with your mom and your father before he passed away?
You know what I did? I asked a lot of questions and I was never able to do it in person. I did it all through email and I did get some. He gave me a timeline of her illness and I didn't even remember that she had been given Narcan until I saw that timeline. So I got a little bit of clarity, but do I know everything? I don't. Yeah. I think I know though. I think I know um with like 99% certainty of probably what happened. And I think I also understand very much. I still feel such a gentleness and compassion, even in this complex relationship. I understand why it was like, this is the story. And even to this day, it's like, yeah, I'm not just going to go out there and be like, this is what I really think. And this is probably the full truth. It's over, and I've made peace with it myself. And more than anything, I think it just motivates me to live in a line with my core values, and honesty and authenticity are two of those values. And I get to do that now in my family of creation. And that just was not how we operated in my family of origin.
Yeah. But you're breaking that generational trauma.
I'm trying really hard. That's my why in sobriety. At first, it was to keep my kids and to keep my husband. That's what was on the table. And that was so good for a while. And then it wasn't enough. And I don't mean that they're not important. I needed to go deeper for myself. And my ultimate why, the reason I get out of bed every single day, is to do my part to break generational patterns that kept me stuck and sick and to do better for my kids. And when I die, my children need to share the things that weren't so great about me and that were complicated in our relationship. And that's okay because that's a very human part of the parent-child relationship. I am not perfect. Our relationship, it has been messy and complicated. And maybe that's the gift too of having alcoholism and addiction in my past, is that just makes it really clear. They get to talk about how hard and awful that was.
Mm-hmm.
And it frees me from the pattern. I didn't really appreciate it going that way. I
Yeah.
wish we could have found a different way to break the pattern. But that is a silver lining.
Yeah. It's interesting watching your kids process that. My eighth grader at the time, she was in eighth grade. She's 16 now. She remembers me in active addiction. My babies were really little. They were 3 when I got sober, but she was 9. So she remembers everything. And she wrote a paper in eighth grade about my experience with addiction and my experience with recovery and her experience from all of that, and won awards for this paper. It's beautiful, emotional paper. But yeah, I mean, it's such a healing journey for them too,
It is, that just hits me right in the heart.
Yeah, it's super sweet. And we've had a complicated relationship. And, I think any 16-year-old you're going to have a complicated relationship with. But yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
yeah,
I think so too.
yeah, like setting that chip down of having that perfectionism chip, like that has been big. Like being like, okay, I am flawed and here's my problems and I'm going to tell you about them and then we're going to work through them together, and having that dialogue with
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. I feel like in AA did work the steps, but that 10th step, when I'm wrong, I promptly admitted it. It gave me the freedom not to be perfect. And I do it every day. It's like, oh, okay. I just need to go back and say, I'm sorry
Yeah.
and try better.
Yeah.
I think they did teach me that in kindergarten, but somewhere along the line, I got lost. I was like, how did I forget that? That's so normal. And I used to teach first grade. I'm like, why did I forget this? This is still okay as an adult.
It's funny when I look at it now, though, because it's like perfect people are really boring to me. You know what I mean? People that come across perfect. If you're going to be in my inner circle, you have some problems. You've been through some stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I connect with y'all a lot more. I wanted to ask you one more question before we do the lightning round. So, you recover out loud, and I love that about you. It's one of the ways that I found you. So, what was that decision like, recovering out loud? How sober were you? Like how many years? And then what are your plans moving forward with that?
I came out of the sober closet my 7th sober anniversary. So I guess that would have been June 23rd, 2024, just over a year ago. And I just felt free. I'm like, "Oh," and I just came out on my personal Instagram. I asked my kids, "Are you guys okay if I post that I'm sober?" And they're like, "Why would it not be okay?" I'm like, "Okay." And the feedback I got was incredible. People were so supportive, and my close friends knew. But then I felt like I could walk in anywhere with nothing to hide, and that was a game changer, especially at social events. I walked in with a new confidence. And again, honesty and authenticity are really important to me today. So I spent almost 10 months doing this. And I was like, okay, I love this. I'm kind of ready to go back to work. I've been a stay at home mom a really long time. It's not the classroom. What am I going to do? And I ended up joining Jen Hurst's Lighthouse Sobriety. And she did a program for the first time, Lighthouse Academy. And it's to teach women how to become a sober coach and what that's about. And I thought, I'll just try it. Let me see what it's like. I think week 1, I was like, "Sold, I'm in." It lit me up like a Christmas tree, and I remember telling my kids, "I think I'm gonna do this." They were so proud, and I told my son Henry, "I'm gonna call it the Sober Dream Team." We're a basketball family, and, the 1992 Olympic basketball team, the Dream Team. I said, "Henry, what do you think?" He goes, "Mom, the Dream Team's got nothing on you." And I just started crying. I'm like, "That's the name. Let's do it. It's going to be the dream team." And I love that concept because I've never tried sobriety solo and I don't want to. To me, it very much involves a team of people who are rooting you on. They want the best for you and they want to see you well. And anybody that decides they need a coach and wants to work with me, I will be your biggest cheerleader. But I'm not enough. You need a whole team of people around you, supporting you so that you can keep moving in the direction that works best for you. It's the hardest thing I have ever done is getting sober and staying sober.
You've created a boardroom for people and you're part of the boardroom. I love that.
Yes. Yes.
I love that. So where can people find you if they're looking for a coach?
I am at Sober Dream Team on Instagram.
So, well, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. I mean, it's really a beautiful, powerful story. You're
Thank you.
a beautiful mom, teacher. People don't really think someone like you could have an addiction problem, but that's the reality. You see it everywhere. It
Yeah.
infiltrates teachers, nurses, doctors, physical therapists, politicians. It's everywhere. It can look different. It doesn't have to be someone that's homeless or whatever. It can look extremely different on everyone. It doesn't discriminate.
It doesn't. And I remember when I went into medical detox and they asked me, do you think you have a problem? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Even though I'm in medical detox, I'm still questioning it. I said, I don't live under a bridge. I'm not homeless and I'm not drinking from a brown paper bag. I'm a stay at home mom. I live in the suburbs and I'm drinking wine from a plastic bag. So I'm not sure those are same. You're like, it's same. I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
As I'm in a white tennis skirt and athletic top, and one of the clients there looks at me, he goes, "Are you the new nurse?" I was like, "No, I'm a client." He goes, "Did you just get off the courts?" I was like, "I don't even play tennis." He goes, "Why are you wearing that?" I said, "I have no idea." And I just started laughing. I'm like, I'm such a fraud. But I had no idea that one, that I could even have a problem with drugs and alcohol, but two, that it was really about what happened once it was in my system. And when they told me, "Are you able to stop at one drink?" I'm like, "Oh, no, never." They're like, "Yeah, you're probably in the right place." I'm like, "Oh, okay." It blew my mind. I really didn't know. So a huge piece of my coaching is about education. I was wildly uneducated about substance use disorder and alcohol use disorder. And I'm on a mission to help educate others, not even people that just come to me for coaching, but on my Instagram page of what it's really like and that it can happen to anybody. Anybody can get addicted to addictive substances.
Mhm. Yes, you're absolutely right. If you drink enough or you have some, whatever going on in your life, it can happen to anyone. It's just not a certain subset of people that it happens to.
Exactly.
Well, we have made it to the lightning round of our show. I ask the same 5 questions to each guest as a fun get to know you to close out the episode. So the first question is you're given 3 options and you have to pick one. Would you shark dive, bungee jump, or skydive?
Bungee jump.
Okay. Have you done any of the 3?
No, I really never want to.
Number 2, you're in a simulation. Every time you walk into a room, the same song plays. What's your song?
What a feeling.
That's
Do
a
you
good
know that
one.
one?
Yeah.
It's an old one. It was
Yeah.
my favorite song when I was 3 and I still love it.
Yeah. It's fun, like a upbeat song.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. Number 3, what's your favorite Disney movie?
Frozen.
Mine too. I love that. And I married Hans of the Southern Isles, but my Hans is good. My Hans is a good Hans. That in the movie it was bad. We joke that, like, because I kind of look like Elsa, we were like in the third Frozen, Elsa marries Hans. Such a good movie. I love the sister bonding too.
I do too, and I'm still working on just letting it go, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah,
It
exactly.
was like, it's so good for me.
It's such a powerful song. Number 4, what is something you're obsessed with?
Somatic exercises.
Okay.
I love, love, love the workout witch.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. I do her exercises almost daily, and my kids walk in, they're like, "Oh my god, she's doing it again. She's doing the workout
I'm
witch."
gonna write that
They're
down.
a they're just the most wonderful exercises if you've had any kind of trauma, or even if you haven't. They're very gentle, and they are it I've never felt so good in my body in my whole life.
Okay. I'm gonna look that up. I love that. All right, last question. What does freedom mean to you?
Freedom to me is that I am living honestly and authentically. My nervous system is regulated and I'm peaceful.
Beautiful answer. Absolutely. And brings it back to your core values, which you mentioned. I love that. I can't thank you enough for coming on. Your story is going to help so many people. And I really, really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart for you being vulnerable with our listeners.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be here.
All right, girl. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.